Well, hello there, Minecrafters. Thanks for coming by. Today we're going to be looking at my new mechanic for an auto clock, is what I like to call it. So the whole point of the auto clock is that we have the ability to detect a player in a certain area, start a clock, a fill clock, a set block clock, a 20 hertz clock, a redstone clock, whatever you like to call it. And then when the player leaves the area without activating any buttons or pressure plates, we can shut that clock off, reducing any possible lag that the player could encounter. So if you have multiple areas in the map and you don't want to run all these clocks all over the place, this is probably really going to help you. I have talked about auto clock in the past. It was a design by Yes for the End. This one is my own design and it's fairly silent. So if I just start it here, we've got the clock running and I leave the area, it shuts off. It's pretty cool. It runs by a falling sand by a redstone block spawner and shuts on or turns on and shuts off. And even if there are other players in the map, um, it will still, when there's nobody in the area, it will shut off. But if you see, there's still a person in the area. The clock is still running, even though I'm out of here and these other players are out of here. But as soon as this player leaves and I leave, then the clock shuts off. So that should potentially help a lot of map makers in reducing any little bit of lag that possibly could be in your map. So let me show you how this works. First of all, you need a scoreboard. So for however many areas that you have, let's say you have 10 areas in your map where you want to start a clock, you need to have a different scoreboard objective name. So I've come up with one called area. You could do area 1, area 2, area 3, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But when you build this clock design here, you've got to adjust that depending on whatever your objective is. And I'm going to turn on the display so you can kind of see what's going on. If I just activate it again, you can see everyone has a score of 1. And when I leave the area, they all have 0. If I have a player still standing in the area and I leave, we're still at 1. And if they leave and then I leave, it's at 0 again, the clock shuts off. So what's happening here is this spawner. Now I should say that that spawner can go anywhere you want. I would put it probably 2 blocks below your floor, just so that you can't see any particle effects. Um, this is going to summon, or not summon, but spawn a falling sand entity, which is actually a redstone block, into this area here. We're going to remove that spawner over here because that means that we don't have any particles to create any type of lag. And that was one of the faults behind the last auto clock I did a long time ago by Esper the End. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to start this whole strip here, which starts the actual clock mechanic where you can make all your commands on that there. And then on the bottom, we're going to remove it. And it's very important that this is air. Otherwise, your redstone falling sand will start popping out into items. So you can see there it sets it to air, and that's ready to be, it's reset, ready to go for the next time that a player comes into range. Now, this is a fill replace clock. That's pretty important in this case because of the way that the speed of this clock happens. It can mess up if you just use a fill clock. But what we're doing is we are looking for log. I just use short word blocks because it's a lot easier to type. We're looking for log, and we're going to replace all these blocks with redstone blocks. So when I activate it, it's actually going back and forth between log, which is the oak log, and a redstone block. And under here it's the same thing. We're looking for redstone block and we're replacing it with log. And as that's happening, then all these redstone blocks can update and activate the rest of your commands. So because of the way that the fill strips line up, and the order is very important. So we're looking at, if you notice there, it says towards positive Z. Um, the way I order these commands here is extremely important because, first of all, we want to set all the players in that, remember I called it area, whatever you want to call it, all the players, if you're using, I'd probably use A, but because I wanted to use a demonstration of armor stands, I had to use E. We're always going to set them to 0. It's always going to refer to the players at 0, and if everybody's at 0 when this clock is running, then we're going to execute at anybody or at everybody at 0. we're going to fill this whole clock with clay, which means this clock gets shut off. So that's basically the first step of it. We're going to set everybody to 0, and then we're going to stop the clock. So how does it work in between? Well, we set anybody who is going to be in this coordinate. So that's basically inside this box here. If anybody is in there, so we're executing it at anybody who's in there, we're going to change the scoreboard of everyone to 1 of that area scoreboard objective. So whatever you want to put, I put area, if it's area 1 or whatever it is, remember to change that depending on whatever, if you have multiple things, remember to change that. And then what it does is because of the order, it constantly updates them to 1 because it's further in the positive direction. If I go here, it constantly updates me to 1 and kind of forgets about the 0 because this is all within 1 tick. When I leave, it goes to 0. And then anybody who has a score of 0, so that means the clock has shut off again, we're going to set that falling sand spawner back where it needs to go. So when you use this in your own map, all you need to do is change the player range. So however wide your area is, let's say maybe you have a 10 by 10, then you need to take this and test it how far that needs to be. Now obviously we don't want to see that spawner, so the other thing you need to do in here is change the location of the spawner. I would put it probably 2 blocks below the area that you want them to go. Right now, this is where my spawner is getting set just so you can see it, but I could put it 2 blocks below. And the other thing is you need to set where the falling sand is going to spawn. So if you notice here, I've got 811.5, 57.0, and negative 172.5. That means that that falling sand is going to spawn right in the center of here. It's very important that you guys put put the 0.5 and the 0.5. If you leave the 0.5 off, it actually won't work. And 0.0 is basically where you're going to be. So 0.5 will be in the middle of the block, and you want the other one, whatever the height is of this block here, you want that to be 0.0. And that's pretty much it. I think, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's silent. It's about the most legless auto clock that I've that I've seen. Although they're not as popular, people just run the clocks all the time. But I think this is really going to help a lot of map makers, for sure. Me in my projects, and this last strip here isn't important. All the info is in the description for this little mechanic here. Feel free to use it. And thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helped you. Enjoy your Minecrafting, and we will see you next time.